Good morning, good morning, and Merry Christmas to all of you. I'm Reverend C.C. Coltrane, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Greater Dayton. If it's your first time here, a special welcome to you, and thank you for sharing your morning with us this fine Christmas Eve morning. Giving our reading and invocation this morning, we're all in red. It's like we got in like uniform today. So giving our reading and invocation this morning is Stephanie Stewart. Our vigil holder is Linda Smith, and Stephanie and Kim Smith will be doing our interfaith candle lighting, which we do to remind us that there is wisdom and truth in all sorts of places. From all of the world's religious traditions, we find these nuggets of gold that can help us get through our days. The kids are here in the sanctuary with us this morning, trying to keep their excitement for tomorrow morning down, right? We're glad you are here with us today. We have a really wonderful thing coming up now. It is a song that you know, but we have a special guest artist with us today, Carol Huseman. You're gonna love it. She's hiding behind the speaker, but you will know, you will be able to hear what she's adding to our music. So please enjoy. We can be kind.
We light the first candle to honor Judaism. Speak not one thing with the mouth and another with the heart. We light the second candle to honor Buddhism. However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will they do you if you do not act on them? We light the third candle to honor Taoism. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. We light the fourth candle to honor Hinduism. Put your heart, mind, and soul into even your smallest acts. This is the secret of success. We light the fifth candle to honor Sikhism. Even kings and emperors with heaps of wealth and vast dominion cannot compare with an ant filled with the love of God. We light the sixth candle to honor Confucianism. If you look into your own heart and you find nothing wrong there, what is there to worry about? What is there to fear? And we light the final candle to honor Christianity. Brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Today's reading comes from the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, Dr. Ernest Holmes. What you have in your bulletin is in the original version. What I'll read this morning is updated language. The Christ is not limited to any person, nor do they appear in any one age. They are as eternal as God. The Christ is God's idea of itself, its own self-knowingness. For Christ to be found in us, it is to put off the old person with all their mistakes and doubts, and to put on the new person who is always certain that they are the beloved of the one. The Christ always comes with power and might, awakened by the still small voice of truth. We take these words into the silence for a few moments of contemplation. So I center myself here and now in this moment, this place of peace, of love, of self-knowingness. Knowing that the One is present in each and every one of us. Knowing that the Christ consciousness comes through as each and every one of us. And I know that today is a blessing, that we are each a blessing, and that we are blessed. I know that this place is special and this time is sacred. And that all of us are here by divine appointment. And so I am simply grateful. I am grateful for all present and all that comes to pass this day. And so it is.
I'm smiling for the camera. Our staff people were trying to get better camera angles and more room for people to find seats. And so this is the result. And the camera's right in front of me now, which is a little startling, but there you go. So Merry Christmas. I hope that your Christmas is merry and happy and warm and wonderful. We're celebrating tomorrow a story that is enormously important in our collective minds, no matter what religious background we may come from, because it's a story we grew up inside of. It's part of our societal DNA, if you will. And the elements of the story, which we all know, are as old as time, and they show up in every religion. But the way they're woven together in this particular story, I think, is really powerful. No matter what's happened to the story and how it's been changed over the last 2,000 years, it can and will inform our lives today in this moment if we let it. Christmas for me is about perhaps the deepest spiritual insight of all. Maybe the greatest spiritual task in our lives, certainly the biggest risk to our egos, which makes it really good, right? It's about the idea of entering fully and completely into living from spirit. It's about allowing ourselves fully and completely to live from the Christ consciousness. And so that's the greatest spiritual task we undertake, is to understand that what is at the center of our being and what we want to live from is the divine. That's what's right at the center of our being. My favorite Christian mystic is Meister Eckhart, who was a German monk from the 14th century. And he wrote, "God expects but one thing of you, and that is that you should come out of yourself, insofar as you are created being made, and let God be God in you." It's an awkward translation, but you get the idea, right? We come out of the bodily part, the part that clings so hard to this world, and let God be God in us. And that's what this whole story is about, the divine being incarnate in each of us, and our consciousness evolving to the point where we can get that, realize that, see that, absorb that, and then are becoming willing to let that live through us. Meister Eckhart again, he said, "We are celebrating the feast of the eternal birth, which God the Father has borne and never ceases to bear in all eternity. But if this birth takes place not in me, what avails it? Everything lies in this, that it should take place in me. This divine birth should take place in me." And that requires a lot of faith. It requires a lot of faith. Enough faith to sort of overcome the clamoring of the ego mind that says, "But what will I become then? What will happen to me," the small m, me, the little me that jumps up and down and says, "Me, me, 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 me," all the time. That me, you know. We all know that one. It's to take the risk of letting go of the ego and let that change take place in us, to allow ourselves to live from the light of the holy that's within us already. And you know, we don't talk about this word a lot around here, but the basis of that kind of faith is hope. Hope is a word we often don't use because I think we have a mistaken idea of what it is. The hope is the feeling that what is wanted can be had. It's about, is it possible? You know, that events will turn out for the best. And hope can grow into faith, which is knowing. It's a deep knowing that events will turn out for the best. And sometimes we think that hope is like, you know, a wish and you know, you make a wish upon a star or something like that. Hope is really the undergirding of knowing, of that deep faith. And so if we have no hope that what we desire will come about, there's nothing on which to base our faith. But a little glimmer of hope gives us You've heard this one before. Faith the size of a mustard seed, right? And we know we can work with that. We've all done it. We've all taken a little glimmer of faith and turned it into something really, really powerful. And we here in this community, we hope that words like love and truth and justice will begin to take visible form in our world. We hope that a world that works for everyone becomes a reality in our lifetime. We hope that society becomes different, and that taking care of each other and making sure that everyone has what they need becomes just the way things are. And it's easy to believe otherwise. You know, it's easy to believe that people are too greedy or too unkind or too unloving or too whatever because our society tells us that. Media tells us that. You know, it's a constant barrage, I think, that's how the world really is. And so it becomes really important, I think, to spend time with the message of this Christmas story, because it is filled with hope. It's the whole story of hope, I think. You know, the story and the life that follows the story is all about hope and faith and truth, with a capital T. And in the Christmas story, we all know the power of it lies in the fact that it is about the divine becoming incarnate in such a paradoxical form. The most vulnerable form you could ever become incarnate as. An infant. It's not a hero, it's not a king, it's not an army, it's a baby. As vulnerable as it gets, right? Prior to that, in this library we call the Bible, it came from outside, like in a cloud, and smote the enemies of Israel, and there were, you know, pillars of fire and all kinds of things. But in this story, God became human, and the human knew it. The human realized that the Word of God was in him, and it was good. That's how the book of John, the first book of John begins. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was divine. And the Word, wherever you read that, word denotes the nature of the thing, right? When we name something, we give it a word, we're denoting its nature, and the Word denotes the nature of God, which of course exists from the beginning. Of course it does. And throughout this whole story of the Bible, which is about our conscious evolution, you know, first it shows up on the mountaintop, and then it shows up in a burning, or I guess the burning bush was first, and then the mountaintop, and then a whirlwind and a pillar of fire, and then in this vulnerable, dependent, needy infant, which is amazing. I mean, it's such an amazing thing that's how the divine would show up. But there's another reason for it, I think, and that is because an infant, a child, is the most hopeful creature on earth. And we don't have all the baggage when we're born. We don't have all the baggage, all the things that say, we can't do that, it won't work, it'll never happen that way. Infants and children believe that what they wish will come about, what they envision will happen. Their dreams will come true. And so we see this little tiny glimmer of eternal hope, because God is eternally with us forever and ever and always. And that's what that infancy represents, is that kind of, yeah, I got this, you know, here I am, life that you see in an infant, that kind of spark of life with no baggage, no barriers, none of that. And so we take that little bit of hope and we use that as a place to start building our faith. The story is about taking the risk of that incarnation ourselves. The story about the birth of Jesus is a story about becoming conscious of the eternal incarnation. That God is incarnate everywhere, in every when, and inside of us. And it's about agreeing to it. It's about agreeing to it and then living from it, right? It's about remembering that we're always and always and always being born in the shape of our God-given selves every single day. And it's about saying yes to that every single day. That's why this story is so important in my mind, is that it reminds me to remember every single day that I get to decide. I get to decide. I get to allow that incarnation in me today. And I think it's about becoming willing, even given the dangers and perils and fears of the world, to embody our deepest feelings and our deepest values and our deepest beliefs and our integrity and our faith. It's about allowing that word of God to take flesh in us. And, I don't know about you, but I really often fall very short of that ideal. I can find it very easy to succumb to the ego and its fears. I can find it very easy to succumb to self-doubt, or I'm not enough, or who am I, or all of those kinds of things. But we just keep aspiring to walk the talk of our hearts and souls, don't we? We just keep aspiring, and we hope and we have faith that as we practice it, we'll get better at it, right? And that goes right along with the story of this, infants don't walk very well. They take one step and they fall over, and they take another step and they fall over, and they just keep doing it until they can walk. We're reminded again that we start out in this, once we decide to allow it, as if we were infants, and we just have to practice until we're, toddling around, pulling stuff off the shelves, like a 2-year-old is. There's a beautiful poem written by a Sufi poet, which is interesting until you start to realize that one of the central female figure of the Quran is Mary. And so the Sufi poet wrote a poem about this whole birth thing that I really loved. Rumi wrote, "Nothing can be undertaken until a pain, a yearning, a love for a thing is awakened inside a human being. Without pain, one's endeavor will not be easy, no matter whether it be about this world, the hereafter, commercial, regal, scholarly, astrological, or anything else. Our body is like Mary, and each of us bears a Jesus. If we experience birth pains, our Jesus will be born. But if there is no pain, our Jesus will return to his origin by that hidden road whence he came, and we will remain deprived." Whew. There's so much in that poem about the risk of incarnation, because we feel that pain of vulnerability, of not looking good, right? Of not doing it well the first time around. We experience the pain of letting go, of change, of all of the things that happen when we say yes to being the place Spirit shows up in the world. But yet there's something in us that there's a desire to be different, to make a difference, to kind of go against the grain of the world and say, what I am and what I do makes a difference. So we have that pull inside of us of getting along in the world and letting that desire take root in us and begin to grow. As it does grow and we begin to change, we actually become our own vision. We become that world in microcosm, that world that works for everyone. We embody that which we dream about. And we become the Word incarnate, the good incarnate. And the pain is that pain of vulnerability again. But from it comes an understanding that the world that works for everyone only works through you and through me, right? It doesn't work as an abstraction, it only works through us. Through us together, we create that world. Through us, we create the place of good. We create heaven on earth, right here and right now, together. The other thing about the infant that I think is so wonderful is that an infant is as vulnerable as human beings get. They have to have food and shelter and protection and love, right? And the same is true of all of these words that are in our souls, these urges that are in our souls that say, embody me, embody me. These vulnerable yet so powerful parts of us that want to be incarnated by us. And if we're going to allow that, what we have to do is swaddle them up in unconditional love and care for them and nurture them with our attention. Because they're visions gestating in our hearts, and they require our unconditional love. And they require a new story. They require a new testament to support them into being. You know, Kenny and the guys played a while ago a great song, and the tagline of it is, "What's your gospel going to be?" We get to choose that. What's our gospel going to be today? Is it going to be the new word? Is it going to be the good word of God incarnated? Or is it going to be the same old, same old? We get to decide. That gospel, that new story, requires us, I think, to realize the power of this idea of Spirit incarnated as us. It's so central because it's so powerful. The word power comes from a Latin word that means to be able. To be able. And it's because we have been incarnated in the flesh. We're little tongues, if you will. We're little waves. We're little however you want to describe it, of spirit incarnated in the flesh. Because we have been so incarnated, we are able to do what we do, which is everything, right? Everything that happens in the world, except maybe the weather, things like that, but everything that happens in our realm happens because of us. So this life-inhabited body of flesh is the means by which we do what Spirit wants done in the world. There's an old folk story. I actually told it last Christmas. I'm telling it again because it's a good one. It's a Danish folk story about two kings that meet up. The one king travels to the other's kingdom, and they're standing there, and the first one says, "You see that tower? In my kingdom I have such power. I could command any of my subjects to climb to the top and then jump to their deaths, and they'll do it." The second king, who was the one that was visiting, pointed to the door of a very humble house and said, "You see that house? In my kingdom I could knock on that door, on the door of a house just like that, and in any town or village I will be welcomed. Such is my power that I can stay the night, sleeping well without any fear for my safety." That's the power I'm talking about. The first is the force of fear, and the second is the power of love. The power of love incarnated as us is what makes all the difference. That's what makes all the difference. And the story of Jesus requires us simply to remember that, and to remember that we're part of something enormous and infinitely wonderful. The words of that song, I'm trying to remember the exact line, but it's something about, the whole point of the song is whatever little thing we do matters, right? Whatever little thing we do with love matters. So we're part of this infinitely wonderful thing called God, life, the universe. It's always expanding. It's always bringing more of itself into incarnation. It's always becoming more of itself. More joy and more abundance and more well-being and more all of those good things. And everything that we do is part of that. when we look at ourselves and say, but I'm just little and what I do isn't going to make much of a difference, if we start to see the power of every word that we speak and every action that we take and every step that we make as the power of incarnation, then it is added to and interacting with that power in everyone else, and it's all happening together. And so all over the universe, there's this larger, more expansive shift happening that we're part of. And if we don't do it, then that is subtracted from this overall incarnation that's happening on earth, this expression of incarnation, this embodiment of love that's happening everywhere. And it's only happening because of those who say yes to this whole idea. I will allow myself to be the presence of the divine right here with what I'm doing. You know, this story is 2017 years old, plus or minus. I guess it's 2040 years old now, right? So they say. And we human beings are finally ready to hear it and understand it and embody it. To let the story inhabit us in such a way that the things in our hearts that are trying to be born, we allow. We nurture. We let them grow to full readiness, and then we give birth to them. We're finally ready for the new story of becoming all that we're incarnated to be. I read a thing this morning that said, our souls sing in gratitude because the light of the Holy One is within us. I love that. Our souls sing in gratitude because we're finally evolved to the point where we can say, yes, that's what's going on here. The Holy One is within me. So for those of us who are celebrating Christmas, perhaps the best gift we can give ourselves is two simple questions. What within us is waiting to take on flesh and heart and life? And how can we love one another in ways that we allow that to be born, to dwell, embodied among us? So take those two questions into your heart and let's just come together in consciousness. Come together and imagine. Imagine ourselves to be all of those characters in the story. The power-mad Herod. The very earthbound shepherds. The wise magi. The loving but confused father. The young mother who knows that something amazing is growing within her. And yes, the embodiment, the infant. The infant who knows that the Holy One is within him. Every one of those characters in the story is part of who we are. And the most important part of who we are is that we are one with the One. For there is only one. There is only that one that penetrates to the furthest reaches of the universe. And yet is also in the smallest subatomic space and everywhere in between. It is that which forms the matter of things, and it is that which bonds the matter together such that these miraculous bodies do all that they do. These miraculous minds not only create ideas, but link ideas and imagine things and envision and plan and expand and race out to the furthest reaches of the universe and down into the tiniest subatomic space. Because we are the incarnations of that one, the Holy One, the sacred divine, the universal mystery. Each one of us encompassing those same feats, if you will, feats of wisdom and joy, of imagination and wonder, of love and harmony, of peace and wisdom, of unconditionality, and all that we do is simply stand forth and remember that we are incarnations of all that. And we allow ourselves to be the place it shows up in our world. We allow ourselves to let our every word be a word of love, to let our every action be an act of love, to let our every thought be creative of love, to let all that we do be the divine showing itself right here and right now. As we walk through this Christmas holiday, I know that we do so remembering this tender and powerful story about the human finally saying, yes, that is what I am about here. Embodying the divine, letting it show out, creating heaven on earth. That is what I am about. That is my greatest and most satisfying spiritual task. And the truth of it is, the very truth of it is, I can't be anything else. That is what I am created to be. And so I simply step ahead of the ego, of the fear, of all that stands in my way. I say yes to remembering that every act is an act of the divine, and every word is a word of the divine, and every bit of love is the love of God going out into my world. And as we do that, we begin to create more and more light, more and more joy, more and more love, a greater outline of heaven right here and right now. Because this is the truth with a capital T about us individually and about us as a community. I just give thanks. I give thanks to know that there is a place which so renews hope and faith, that so reminds me every day what it is I am here to be all about, what each of us is here to be all about. This place we come together in love to remind each other that we have learned to walk, and we are learning to run, and pretty soon we will be learning to soar together. That is the way of life. That is the way of our lives. And so in deepest gratitude, I just let these words go. I know that they're already done in the mind and soul of God, and that they are making themselves into form. They're making their way into form right now as we speak. We see it in each other. We smile. We love it. We are reminded ourselves to let it be the way of our own lives. And so, in deep gratitude, trusting God, knowing the truth, we say together, and so it is.
I am just a thread, a simple thread in this glorious web of life. We are all just drops within a stream, flowing towards an ocean of light. We may forget where we come from. We may forget where we're going to. reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one. This is my simple prayer. May I become a reflection of the infinite one.
Yes. We now have an opportunity to contribute to the center because this is the place through our classes and our services and our workshops and more where we help each other allow that word that wants to be born through us to be born. That's really what we're all about, is supporting each other and choosing that and making those changes and becoming willing to be vulnerable and be seen. And to remind each other of how much we have to be grateful for already. Gratitude is the thing that opens us to more good in our lives. So let's count a couple of blessings, if you will. Just figure something that you can focus on and be grateful for. I have so many, it's hard for me to stop once I start making a list. But right now I'll just say I'm grateful for this community because all of you helped me to grow so much and to remember what I'm here to do. So let yourself be filled with gratitude and let's affirm together. I am joyful.
I am joyful.
I am free.
I am free.
I am grateful.
I am grateful.
I give with gratitude.
I give with gratitude.
And I say yes
And I say yes
to all the good life has to offer.
to all the good life has to offer.
And so it is.
And so it is.
A couple of quick announcements and then we will all get on with our, I hope nobody still has shopping to do because it's crazy out there. Be sure you take a look at the flyers, the special flyers in your bulletin because they're about the big events that are coming up. And take a look at the last page of your bulletin, of course. And please note next Sunday morning at 7 a.m. is the Global Synchronized World Peace Meditation from 7 to 8. And join us for service at 10:30 because we're going to have a little revival of our souls with joy for the New Year's. It's going to be a New Year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please join us. And Kenny has something he wants to say about New Year's Eve.
I do. For anybody that wants to come see my band play on New Year's Eve, I have tickets. So tickets are $10. 2 bands next Sunday night, obviously. So come and see me. Bye.
Good.
Where?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, honey.
It's at the Miamisburg Moose, which is
Yeah, just about.
hit it, baby.
Just wanted to remind everyone too that Carol Jackson has, who does wonderful spiritual readings, has offered to have gift certificates sold, and she's going to donate back to the church 20% of all sales. So get them for yourself, get them for family and friends, and the church will benefit as well as you. Thanks.
And how much are they?
Yes. You want to see? Oh, yeah, please, and they're at the front door, they didn't get
Hey
them.
Kathy,
How much?
Rhea.
What's the price? What's the price, Kathy?
The price on the gift certificates, 30 minutes is $60. 1 hour is normally $120, but she's discounting that $20, so it's $100 for an hour. And then on top of that, 20% goes back to the church.
All right.
So you get a discount and the church does too.
This, I wanted to make sure that everybody picked one of these up. This is from your ushers and greeters and welcome team. It's a little Christmas message for you. If you didn't get one, there's some back by the door there. Thank you, Kathy, for doing that. If any of you would like prayer after service, we do have a couple practitioners here. They are the ones wearing the white or teal stoles, and all you have to do is walk up and ask them for prayer, and they're very, very good at seeing the spiritual truth for you even when you can't, and they sort of remind you of that and maybe give you some suggestions about how you might work with your thinking to be able to see that truth no matter what. So they give this gift to you on Sunday, so please take advantage of it. You can also put a written prayer request in the prayer chest on the table, and it'll be picked up after service. I think that is it for me, except to remind you to give everybody around you a Christmas hug. Christmas hugs. Hugs are good for us all the time, but especially at Christmas, right? Like you kind of like get double the good out of them, I think. And have a great holiday season. We hope to see you next Sunday at 7, and if not, if you can't get out of bed that early, at 10:30. So thanks to everybody who made today possible, all of you, of course. We wouldn't be here without you. Our ushers and greeters, the practitioners, the welcome team, the Higher Mind Band, par excellence. Thank you, Carol. Something about the voice of the oboe that just always speaks to my soul, so thank you very much. And let's stand for our closing affirmation. Our closing song is We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Am I correct? Okay. My soul sings in gratitude.
My soul sings in gratitude.
The light of the Holy One is within me.
The light of the Holy One is within me.
I greet it in faith.
I greet it in faith.
I nurture it in love.
I nurture it in love.
And I welcome its birth through me.
And I welcome its birth through me.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everybody.